Okay, we are looking at the calendar. Again, I have it that it's tentative because I know we're not supposed to come back till May 4th, but it's just hashed out for some dates, and we'll stick with these dates until more things come out. But I'm trying to make us a calendar that we have some info. So I know that from the 6th through the 9th, we've already done that. A lot of you turned those in. I'll be posting that on the next progress report. So I'll be reading through those. I already read through a lot of them. Really good work on that. This week, what I've decided to do is I know that at the beginning of online school, I had like overviewed and I had talked about the progress report that we would be doing on the presidents, the grades that we'd be giving them. And I also talked about an interview. Basically, because we have time. Because the AP exam, I don't know if y'all know, the AP exam has been moved back to the 15th. Originally, I had it here at the 8th. And so, because I have that week, I want people to focus on getting this interview done. So, what I've done is there's 30 questions, and I've said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to have a little bit every day. So, I want to go over that so y'all could see what's this about. So, this is a 20th and 21st century interview. Eventually, you will be interviewing someone where you will select an individual and they will share with you significant events that occurred in the United States in the last 40 years. So, like, for example, if I'm still doing this in 20 years, I'm pretty sure under the Trump administration, COVID will be there. And if someone approached you about an interview, y'all would probably have a lot to say, a lot of memories to share. And it's more than just the policy of what happened. That you're not asking a question, did you know what COVID was? You're going to be asking a question like about how did that event impact their life? So if I were to ask each of you about the COVID pandemic, and we would go about how it originated in China and that many nations were impacted, and this is kind of like the bubonic plague, and it went around, and what impact happened to you, and you're really getting to the heart and core. And a lot of you would respond, oh my gosh, we had those dreaded months of online school, or we missed prom, or there was scarcity of toilet paper, or my parents lost their job. That really brings the history personified, and that's what we're going to be looking at. In this interview, we're going to be looking at stuff from Reagan through Trump, and you could interview two people, from different generations. It will be an oral interview, and I know I'm looking at this, and this is stuff that we're going to be focused on later, but I'm just hashing out what we're going to be doing in the future with this first part. So, but before we could get an interview, we must get some questions. Okay. And so eventually you will be doing this interview over the phone. You could Zoom, you could FaceTime, however you want to do it, to interact with your interviewee. The interview will be based off chapters 40 and 41 in the American Pageant if you have the blue white book, or if you have the blue book 30 and 40. What we are looking at is creating 30 quality questions, and they must be shared to me by April 17th. But if we're doing 6 a day, this should be doable. So, like, let's just look at Reagan. Like, there's one on there on the moral majority, and if you go into the book, you will see you have to research what is the moral majority. And as you're reading through the chapter on Reagan, you'll find that it's a conservative coalition that is going to basically guide a lot of his principles. Look up those principles, and you will be asking a question about that. Maybe were people, did they agree with the moral majority stance, or did they attend any of the rallies? Just stuff to make it personified. And you don't want to ask yes or no questions, but you wanted to get them to interact with it. So let's look at the next one. The next one's Star Wars, and most of you are like, oh, cool, that's the movie. But actually, this is the Strategic Defense Initiative, and Reagan nicknamed it Star Wars, which it was supposed to be a missile system that would be able to take down intercontinental ballistic missiles. And so that's the research. That's you reading through this. And so you will go through a lot of these topics, like the Challenger is one of them. And we know that was in Florida, that on a cold day that the Challenger took off and it exploded midair. And many people remember this event, like the explosion. And actually, most people in America were watching in their schools because the first teacher to go into space was there, Christina McAuliffe. And I remember when I was in elementary school, they had all of us sitting around the TV to watch the first teacher take off, and the thing explodes. And even in Waxahachie, parts of the explosion landed here. And so you're going to be asking, going over the history and asking how were they impacted. The Just Say No campaign, and again, that's Just Say No to Drugs, which was Nancy Reagan's first lady campaign. And then we had the AIDS epidemic. So you're going to research this stuff a little through the chapter and then create some questions. There's also some bonus questions because you could earn 10 extra points if you ask about any of these people. Okay, so let me talk about how the question needs to be built. So this is a sample question, and it says, in October of 1962, a U-2 spy plane flying over communist Cuba discovered Soviets were building missile sites. So we just learned about this. This is the Cuban Missile Crisis. For 13 days, the world stood on the edge of nuclear war while JFK and Khrushchev negotiated. So I asked this to my mom because she was living at this time period. And I asked, look, it's not a yes/no question. I asked it a personified question. How did your family react? And she was like, my grandpa had them in the backyard and they were digging a hole. And I was like, why were y'all digging a hole? So basically it led to my next question. They thought the world was going to end and they were building an atomic bomb shelter. And so all her plus her 7 siblings were out there. And so at school, I asked her, did they practice fire drills? She's like, yes. I was like, did y'all practice nuclear drills? And she was like, yeah, but we saw the bombing on Hiroshima and we didn't understand how being under desks was really going to protect us. And so again, this got them not yes, no questions, but this got them to reveal what they were doing at that time. The next one is another one about John F. Kennedy. He was killed in downtown Dallas. And a lot of people actually remember where they were when these events happened. Like, y'all are going to have September 11th on there. And many people remember exactly where they were when they heard that news and how it sent shockwaves through the nation. So the first part, and this is what you're going to be doing this week, is developing those questions. If you see how they're developed, the first part is rejotting the history. And that's what a good interviewer does for their interviewee, is they rejot the history so they could remember. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for. Okay, so eventually you will do this in an interview format. You're going to type up a short paragraph about the person. So if I were to talk about my mom, this is for the latter. I need to talk about her name. My mom's name is Maria San Juan de los Lagos Camona Gonzalez Perez, Mary Jane for short. I would type up a short paragraph about her, how she was living in San Antonio. She was married at the time. She was, most of the time, she was a stay-at-home mom and then went back to work as a teacher. Her age of the time when I interviewed her, I don't know how she is. She's like 70 now. Her background, the area of the country, her occupations. Any relevant information would help the reader understand their responses. Just knowing that she's Hispanic and also she was a teacher, she went through schooling, she had her college education. That's just stuff to help. So when I interviewed my dad, Paul Perez, he went to Vietnam, and when he came back from Vietnam, he went and got his degree. We see that when I asked him the questions, he was about 65 or so. He has been several things, from being a soldier to working at a gas station to being an engineer. Just that's all relevant stuff to help us understand their background and where they're coming from. Eventually, you'll type up these questions and then you'll answer them in another. Okay, so due dates. So the 30 interview questions that I'm making you do this week are due to me by April 17th. Okay, and what these questions will count at is that they're going to count as your grade for this week. They will be 100 points, okay, for this portion of the interview. Eventually, your interview will count as another grade later of 100 points. And it's going to be a test grade. Y'all know it's test grade, daily grade, and a quiz grade. So Just this week, those 30 questions are your grade for the week. Okay? They're 100 points. Some of you, I may respond back to you saying, whoa, you didn't have the content. Please fix this. By you submitting me these questions now, I at least have time to vet them and make sure that it's going to be enough. Okay, so just know that this week you should be developing your interview questions. Okay, that is all you're focused on. If some of you want to get ahead and you want to start your interview, that's fine. But I'm telling you right now, when I look down, like here's this week, right? We're doing our interview questions, and I'm suggesting you do 6 a day so that we're not doing them all at once. And then I'm going to go back into LBJ. I'm going to get through Vietnam. I'm going to go through Nixon, Watergate, Ford, Carter, Reagan, and then we go Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama. Okay? And then after that week, I'm giving you the whole week. So if you were to do 6 questions a day with your interview person, or 5, or however much, like you want to break it up, I'm giving you the time, and that's what we're going to be doing that week, and it's not till to the 18th. Okay? So everything is here. I'm just breaking it down. I'm giving you time in class instead of doing stuff online to work on that interview. Okay, so we have this week, we're working on questions. If you have issues, email me. Send me, if you want me to call you, send me your number so I could call you and talk you through the process. Okay, email me your questions. I really want y'all to get through this. This is something that eventually, if I'm still in the classroom 20 years from now, hopefully you'll get an interview and I would like to hear your response. But I really think that this is something that we could connect with people in our family that have experienced these events. Because like, I'm pretty sure you could go into a lot of these questions and ask your parents. Like if we look at the Obama administration, there's the election, okay? The appointment of Sonia Sotomayor, and then in the Bush, we have No Child Left Behind, and many of your parents know that. We have September 11th, the global war on terror, the Patriot Act, the financial crisis of 2008, Hurricane Katrina. Those are a lot of things that your family knows, okay? Some of them maybe not, like Edgewood versus Kirby, but they probably know about NAFTA and Columbine, the impeachment of Clinton. So these are things that most people know about, and they remember seeing them, that they could interact, right? So on your interview, just there's also those 10 bonus points if you develop those questions and you ask them. Okay? Email me if you have questions. Bye.